Hi everyone, sorry no Retro 80s t-shirt today. I'll make sure I get one for the next video. But anyway, this is just more or less a follow-up video to one of the first videos I'd sort of ever made. The repair of my MS7221 voltage milliamp calibrator that I'd bought off eBay as faulty. And on that video, you know, I did a repair on it, and basically there's a surface mount, an SOIC package, 4013 flip-flop that went faulty. It was faulty in the original when I got it. So basically I'd cockroached on a dual inline package in its place, and it's sat like that ever since. And I have been using this on and off in the intervening months, and I just thought I'd finally get around to doing a full repair on it, a proper repair on it. So I've actually taken delivery of a couple of 4013s, the SOIC package here. So in this video I'm going to do a repair and replace the cockroach with one of these. So here's the MS7221, and as you can see with the repair, it's powering up fine, which it wasn't doing originally. And that's because the 4013 is actually part of the reset, the power on-off function on from the front panel here. It's part of that circuit there, and originally the fault was it would power up and then it would just power off randomly, and that's because the 4013 was faulty. So let's open it up. Case is a little bit of a challenge to get off because everything's mounted on the front half, and the rear housing is basically just the back of the case, but you've got the two battery terminals there that poke through, and you have to squeeze them down through the holes in the case. That's it, which they're quite a bit narrower than the actual pins of the terminals of the battery terminals there. And here's the PCB. It's the front of the unit there, and there's the back, and you can see there's my little wee cockroach there, the 4013 dual inline package there that I'd soldered them onto using wire wrapping wire onto the pads for the SOIC package. So we'll remove this, clean up the pads on the PCB, and then I'm going to use hot air soldering, or possibly I might just do it by hand. I'll wait and see what sort of access I get. I'll probably have to remove this fuse here to give me some sort of access from that side onto those pins there, but if the worst comes to worst I can use the hot air. So there's the cockroach removed. As you can see, it's an old stock IC that I had lying around, 1984. Plenty of those from back in the day lying around my workshop anyway. The first thing I'm going to do is clean up the pads on the PCB, because I want the pads and the PCB to be as level as possible. Any lumps of solder sitting in the pads are probably going to mean that the new IC here is not going to sit very level. If I was using hot air, I could probably get away with that, because I could heat up most of the pins simultaneously whilst applying a little bit of pressure from the top and as soon as the solder melts, the actual IC will then sit nice and directly on the PCB. But as I'm going to solder it by hand instead of using the hot air, I'm more or less limited to one pin at a time. So therefore I want to get all the old residue solder removed from the pads as much as possible. To use the flux, to make it a little bit easier, I'm going to use a solder braid. I'm actually going to put a bit of flux on the pads, and that'll help with the wick and getting the solder up into the braid. That's much better. It's a lot easier when you've fluxed the pins on the PCB with the likes of this Kestrel flux. So one thing can happen with braid is it oxidizes, the copper oxidizes here, and it doesn't take the solder off the PCB as readily as it should do. Especially with the cheap stuff I tend to buy off of eBay anyway. So I think that's about it done there. Just one more there. That's it. Okay, so I'll remove this fuse. Now we'll lay the new IC into position, getting it the right way around. So pin 1's at this end, and there's pin 1 there. Okay, so now we'll solder one of the pins in place. There we go. So one of the pins in place and nice and square. So now I'll just solder up the rest of them. So that's the 4013 all soldered up there nicely. I think if you can see, don't know how easy to see in the camera, but these are dual flip-flops here, and you can see that only one half of it's used because these pins here are all, this is a ground plane here, so you can see that most of those pins there are all tied together to the ground, and that's basically the second flip-flop there. This circuit only actually used one of them. On this particular, they're not available. These old ICs don't come in single packages. They're basically just a dual flip-flop. In fact, there's one, I think I'll resolder that pin there. A little bit of a blob in it, so just make sure it's soldered correctly. Okay, so the next thing is to assemble the meter back together again and power her up. before I put the screws in place, I'm gonna actually power it up. Get the battery the right way around. It's powering up fine. Yep. The one thing I will do is just bend out the tabs on the battery terminals. Again, I think they got slightly flattened with squeezing them through the holes in the case when I was removing it. So I'll just pull them out a little bit and pop back in the battery. That's better. Job done.